this week I'm going to share with you a short podcast, but it's going to be a podcast on a topical subject that a few people have asked me questions about. And it's one that's specifically important when you're selling into other businesses. And it's all around how should you communicate with senior people, and should you go above the person that you're communicating with if you're not getting traction or momentum with that person. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do here in the situation and the scenario that you're going to face yourself here. And of course, I should start by saying this. I'm not, of course, in your situation. I don't know the people involved. I don't know the exact scenario and the politics and everything going on in the situation that you're discussing and we're going to discuss. But I am going to share with you some thoughts as to what to do and what not to do when it comes to this. Where does this happen? So I always believe in organizations, generally there are three types of people or three types of levels of people. The first are what I would call decision makers. They are the people that will sign the checks, pay the bills, agree the deals, have the budgets, create the budgets, whatever you want to call it. They are decision makers. And you sometimes can argue there are actually final decision makers, but there are decision makers that make decisions to do things. And those are generally people at senior levels in organizations. You then have what I call level twos, which are influencers. And influencers are people that are really important in the overall process. The decision maker will talk to those people, whether they'll be people that work for them or people at the same peer level as them, or even people that are external to them they will talk to you around those elements. And those influence the decisions of that person. And then the final people are what I would call implementers or doers. These are the people that generally, yes, they are important. They are the people that make companies operate, and they are the cogs in a wheel. That they are the smaller cogs sometimes. Not smaller in people wise, but they're the people that get the work done. They are the soldiers in the army, let's call it. And the soldiers in an army aren't necessarily going to say to the general or the Ministry of Defence or the Defence Secretary what gun to use or make a decision on that, but they are going to influence. They are going to suggest, if the guns, a bad example at the moment, but if the tools that they're using aren't working, they're going to provide the information around that. So if you imagine you've got these three levels of organisation, and sometimes when we're engaging with people, we'll get to meet people that are maybe implementers or doers, or maybe influencers, and we'll have conversations with them. In many cases, sadly, too many people in sales situations will put together proposals to influencers and implementers because they actually haven't thought through the process of authority in organizations. And I have covered that off in other areas. I've covered it off in lots of my YouTube channels and content around how you need to understand the authority and decision-making process in any deal. But there are times when we will sometimes engage with someone, and for whatever reason, we might want to do business with that company, but we're not getting traction with that person. And it may well be because the relationship is sort of broken down a little bit because, maybe you've said something or done something with that person that has annoyed them, or maybe that what you're looking to do is a priority and you think it should be a priority for the company, but it's not a priority for them anymore. Or it could well be that they have, brought you into a conversation and a discussion, but you haven't built a relationship with them fully yet, and so there's other people involved in the process. So I sometimes see a lot of people who will go above that person. So what they'll do is they'll say, person A, let's say, Darren works for Sally, and Darren works for Sally, and that's, and they go and hunt out an organizational chart, and they find out that Darren works for Sally. And then what they go and do is they then, because they're not getting any traction with Darren, they will go straight to Sally and say, hi, Sally, I wanted to have a conversation with you about my service or whatever else. And if you like, try and usurp Darren's role in the process. And when I've seen this happen before, it generally, and when it happens like that, nine times out of 10 results in a failure. And the reason being is because Darren, the executives are executives for a reason. They sometimes delegate their projects and activities to other people. So in the case of this fictitious case I've just mentioned of Sally and Darren, let's say there's a project to implement a new piece of software or a new service. Sally is going to require her team and other people which she works with to go and implement something. And the chances are, if Darren's one of her key lieutenants or key people involved in that, she might say to him, well, can you help me look at implementing that? Now, if you as a seller have gone, because Darren's not replying to you, if you've gone above Darren and gone straight to Sally and said, by the way, Sally, do you want to have a conversation? Even if what you've shared is interesting and valuable and helpful to Sally, Darren's initial reaction to that is probably going to be, stuff you. Why have you done that? Why have you gone above me? So you've got to be incredibly careful about doing that, because what that's going to potentially do is turn a person like Darren, who for some reason may have just not had a problem with you, but was waiting to get back to you at a later stage, then decide that you're the devil incarnate and is going to block you from even doing any business with that company, or will even then say to Sally afterwards, no, I don't think that company's a good company because I've looked at them and blah, blah, blah. So it can go against you in that way. So you have to be very, very careful about doing that. And I've also seen that happen with people in different, especially in larger organizations where you've got different divisions. So you might have a situation where you've got Darren and Sally in one area, let's say division A, but you've also got division B on the other side, and you've got Bob and Jackie those areas. And someone's gone and said, okay, well, if I can't get into Sally, I'm going to try and get into Bob and to Jackie. So they've gone to another area of the team. And again, that can work, but you have to be very careful about it. Again, sometimes people in organizations can become quite protective of that. They don't like to feel that other people are trying to go round them to achieve something. Now, the question is what's causing that person to want to be in that position? What's making them block your access into an opportunity? And so my advice to you is when you get faced with this issue and you want to progress something forward, there's two things I'm going to encourage you to think about. The first is, why is this not on Darren's agenda? So you take the case of Darren and Sally, where Darren is the person that I want to talk to. He's like, what is making Darren not want to engage with you for this reason? Is it because there's something you've done? Is it because he doesn't see it as a priority? Is it because we haven't positioned your solution in the right way? Is it because he's got other tasks on his list and that task isn't the top one? I don't know. And so our job is in sales is to make sure what we're selling and what we're putting forward is at the top of the agenda, is something that's going to be relevant to that person. And we have to be honest, sometimes what we're focusing on doing is not the top of priority list. It may well be that if it's not the top of priority list for Darren, then it may well be not on the top of the priority list for Sally either. So you're not going to get any joy by going above that person. So how can you overcome that? The best way to overcome that is to ask great questions. And if you've had a conversation with that person, ask them the question, tell me who in the organization you're working with, who else is involved in this project? Where does this project fit within the priority list at the moment? What other things are you doing at the moment that could cause an impact to the timelines of this project? Or what else could get in the way of us making progress here? So ask those questions, find out what's going on in the world of that person, in this case Darren, to really identify what's stopping them from moving things forward. But also, if you then, part of that questioning process, ask questions. Tell me a bit more, Darren, about, the team that you work with. I noticed you report we work with Sally. Tell me a bit more about Sally. And it may well be that Darren's keen to move things forward, but he just can't get Sally's attention. And he can't, or Sally's got other things on her mind. So you can ask a question such as, what can we put in front of Sally that would make her think this is a good option? Or how can we build a business case or a solution that would make Sally excited about this? Or what can I do to support you, Darren, to help make sure that we get this in front of Sally? And most people, when you start to understand their reasons, their drivers, their problem or desire for wanting the sale, and you then try and approach it in that way, we'll go, okay, I think we can look at doing this, or we can look at doing that. So that's my first step, tip for you, is to work with the person you're working with to try and get to that point. Now, if you're in a position where you literally have lost that relationship and you really feel that you've tried lots of communications, you've tried sharing lots of value, they won't pick up the phone and engage with you, then what I do suggest you do is to do this, and that's to send a communication, whether it's an email or a discussion, but involve Darren in that process. In the case of, if I was going to go above Darren, what I would do is I would send an email to Sally, but I would copy Darren in saying, I've been trying to get hold of you guys to share a solution for a problem. I know Darren is exceptionally busy. I know he's really busy on lots of projects, and we've not been able to catch up for a while, but I wanted to share some insights with you, Sally, that I thought could be helpful or thought could be useful. And by the way, Darren, I'd love to catch up whenever you're free and got some time. I'll try and call you next Thursday at 4. So what that does is it says to sort of Darren, okay, well, this person's going a bit above me, but they're doing it in a way that's sort of, it's like a shot across the bows, as it were. It's saying they're prepared to have a conversation to a person above that's a decision maker without it being, if you like, at the expense of that person. And hopefully what will happen there is, especially if that person, that executive, and you're sharing something that's valuable, it goes, oh, this is useful, helpful, it will jolt Darren or the person you've been trying to work with into life, and they'll then try and have a conversation back with you. It does come with a risk. It may well mean that they then get frustrated that you've done that. But if you've worded that email in the right way, in a positive way, I know you're really busy trying to get hold of you, I just wanted to share some information that can help you and move you guys forward, it's going to make them feel at least, well, actually, I'm not going to maybe put them out, and be critical of them. They're trying to move the conversation forward. And sometimes we do need the managers above, especially if we're sharing insights and value that's helpful, to nudge those beneath them into doing something. So if you are going to go above that next person, if you are going to go above a level, if you are going to try and approach someone differently, or like I say, in a different division area, copy that person in, involve them in the process, or pick up the phone to them and say to them, hey, Darren, I'm just going to let you know, I've got some insights I want to share. I know you're really busy. I'm going to drop an email through to you and a couple of your colleagues. I want to see if we can help you move this forward. And share and tell them that you're going to do that. Sometimes that'll provoke a reaction to, oh, no, don't do that because of this and this reason. And at least then you can find out what's stopping them from moving things forward. But be careful about going above someone. If you do it in a way that's subtle, if you do it in a way without copying that person in, I think it's a recipe for, in most cases, for disaster. If you've got something that's so critical, some insights you can share that you can get to that next level above, or let's say you happen to be at an event where you've met that person, refer back in a reverent way to Darren. Oh, it's lovely to meet you at the event, Sally. We've been chatting to a couple of your team members about things recently. I've had some great conversations with Darren. He's a great guy, and we're really keen to help. Can we set up a meeting with you and Darren involved? Make that person feel like you're involving them in the process. If you do that, you're going to increase your chance of success. It may not guarantee it. They still might get frustrated, but you're going to be better than just reaching up and going above that person to then, if you like, try and get your deal done. And some people say, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm always going to go to that top level person. Most cases, those senior executives that are making decisions need the people within their team to go along to a decision and buy into it. And there are projects that don't often happen, not because it wasn't the right solution, it's because people got pissed off along the way, who then became complete blockers to any progress being made. So if you are going to go above that person, do it in a subtle way, involve them, copy them in the process, make them aware of what you're doing. And if they still don't react, if you still don't get that reaction and response from the executive, then you know that you've got to create a narrative or a hook that's more appealing to that person. But if you try and do it without involving the person, chances are it's going to lead to a failure. So look, I hope that's helpful and give you some insights into what to do to try and overcome this. It is a challenging situation. It is a difficult one, but I think it's one that if we approach in the right way, we can get the right result. Especially in businesses, there are lots of politics that goes on, and we're not privy to all of those elements. But making sure you're involved in that person and making that, I was trying to think, how can I make that person look good? How can I make that person reflect well to the people in other parts of the organisation? Get them on your side, make them a champion for what you're trying to do, rather than than someone that's going to block you or stop you from doing stuff. And if you do that, you're going to be in a better position to win the deals going forward. So let me know what you think. Have you approached it in a different way? Let me know. Put it in the comments section. Reach out to me on social media. Let me know if you've approached it differently. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But that's certainly my advice on what I've done in sales situations when it's been in a way where I've had to approach it differently. I've played the game, as it were. I've understood the situation and understood what will impact the other person's mind. And that's why I always say to you, if you're always unsure, try and think, if you were in that position, what would you do? What would your reaction be? How would you respond? Our job as business and salespeople is to get inside the mind of the buyer and the people we work with. And so start putting yourself in their shoes and think what they would think and do. And it's going to help you get the results, hopefully, that you want. So look, as I always do, finish the podcast with an inspirational story. And some stories we share are old people. A couple of weeks ago, I shared a podcast of a 96-year-old guy that got a degree. I'm going to share a story of a young lady, a young girl called Pixie Bell. She's 9 years old. She's astonished doctors where she lives in Manchester with she's had, bless her, huge amounts of care for a rare brain tumour. She's 9 years old. She's had 4 brain operations. She's lost her hair 3 times. She's lost sight in one eye due to the chemotherapy. She's got a number of different treatment plans and things that haven't necessarily worked. She's cured cancer. She's battled and got herself clear of cancer, and then it's gone into remittance again. And in all that time, she's continued to raise money, and her and her family have inspired people to raise money for over £45,000 for a scanner at Royal Manchester Children's Hospital. And this is a young lady that, even at 9 years old, is brave enough to know that she can make a bigger impact in the world for other people. Even with her own tribulations and tough times, she's moving forward from that. And I think people like that, like Pixie, incredible inspiration to us all. And at 9 years old, if Pixie can do it at 9 years old when she's suffering from suffering from cancer and has lost all those things, if she can do it, what stops you? So take inspiration from Pixie, take inspiration from other stories that I shared. Again, if you've got an inspiration story, reach out, share it with me so we can bring these people into the podcast and use these brilliant stories to inspire other people. But look, I wish you incredible success in the week ahead. I'm always here to support you. If you've got questions, reach out to me on social media at any stage. I reply back to people. Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Instagram, connect with me on X, connect with me on Facebook, connect with me where you like, TikTok. The point is this: whatever your channel is, let's get you the sales success you want to achieve the goals you have for business. And I look forward to sharing more insights with you next week. Until then, be safe, be happy, and take care. See you soon.